Welcome back to another video, the first actually of what I hope to be a series of cigar smoking videos. Working title at the moment is a cigar and a thought, because I love to have a chat and I love to have a cigar, and I've also mic'd up, so hopefully sound quality is pristine. My cigar, before I get into the topic at hand, is an Arturo Fuentes cigar. And I know people usually come at me for pronunciation, but look, I'm not Latino, okay? I don't speak Spanish. So this is a Gran Reserva. We're going for something light, quick and easy, uncontroversial smoke. A New World that's also really affordably priced as well, that I've unboxed in my prior videos, so you can obviously consult that at your leisure. And I'm going to go for actually a cat eye cut, because as you all know, those of you that are seasoned subscribers, you know that the cat eye is my favorite cut. Very nice. I am using this torch lighter because obviously it's very windy. The first draw is always the best. The topic is actually one that's quite big in the luxury realm at the moment, because as you know, luxury fashion is my first love. It's the reason I came and made a channel, and that's about an influencer called Lydia Elise Millen. She's a very big luxury lifestyle YouTuber, creator. She got big, I want to say almost like a decade ago. She was one of the OGs actually in this realm. And actually, she started as a fitness influencer, and she pivoted quite quickly towards luxury fashion and lifestyle. And then now she's kind of this countryside woman who has like almost like a farm. She rears chickens, she's got horses, bees, I think, as well, and likes to wear jodhpurs and things like that. I would say that for the majority, she has been very much a luxury handbag collector and creator. And actually that was her biggest start, I feel, in the YouTube and Instagram game, is her unboxing handbags, talking about them, reviewing them. That's certainly how I found her. Nowadays, I don't follow her actually as much, if at all. Her content isn't really exactly things that I find interesting, but I know a lot of people do. If they wanted to make sourdough starter, that's who you're going to go to. With that being said, with the pivot of a brand identity, you have to retire a new one, shall we say. And at this moment in time, she's released several videos, and it's gone quite big in the luxury community, saying that she is selling off basically almost the entirety of her handbag collection. So I wanted to dive into that. I just wanted to give you, as well as the viewers who aren't so aware, a bit of that background, because it's very important to know where she started from. I will give you a few quotes, I suppose, from her transcript of the announcement video. It was, you know, she makes vlogs that are hours long. I don't have time for that, you guys. And I'm also not going to put it in here because I don't want copyright strikes. And also you can pursue that video if you wanted to. And we will have a very fruitful, open and respectful discussion, because that's my only disclaimer. These are my honest, true thoughts and opinions. If you don't agree, that's great. That means the brain cells are working. And I think if you're going to put something online, people are entitled to talk about it. So let's keep it classy in the comments. The vlog is actually titled, because I do have some notes because I don't want to miss anything. It's called Selling My Hermes Bags, The End of an Era, and Unboxing the British Birkin. And it starts around the 44-minute mark of her almost 1.5 hour video. But she says she realized that handbags are a way for me to take control of things in my life. And she basically bought handbags because it let me know, quote, that I'd done well, as a well done me. If no one else was going to tell me that I was doing well, I was going to do it for myself. And I felt very, very empowered. I wasn't waiting for anyone else to tell me those things. And it was quite a positive thing. It feels good until it doesn't. And she goes on and she mentions at one point her handbag collection reached a whopping 75 design handbags.
Jesus.
I always joke that I have a luxury addiction, but I have 20 handbags, maybe less at this stage. I've sold off a few. Then she said she had this niggling feeling that she was chasing an unattainable thing, whereby I constantly needed the newest, the best, the shiniest, the most beautiful bag on offer, which I do identify as something that is a bottomless pit when it comes to luxury or anything in life. So it's not a good way to chase validation, so I can see that. She's whittled it down to around 15. She's focusing on loving and using and enjoying the bags, until you realise, and this is around the 48-minute mark, that you're walking around London and you're scared. You're turning your bag the wrong way round so people can't tell what bag you've got. People are saying horrible things on the internet about this particular bag you choose to wear. She said the content doesn't sit well with her around, I'm assuming, that brand. She's deliberately elusive, so I'm going to assume and make an educated guess it's Hermes, given most of her handbags are Hermes. I think making people slow down in their purchases is brilliant. However, my actual experience has actually been sometimes not very nice as well. She said it has got to a point where it wasn't right to keep my bags at home because it wasn't safe. So there's lots of people getting robbed. Look, we've talked about this in my videos in the past, so we can definitely get into that around safety. That she said actually she got to the point where she had to keep some of her bags in a vault and then switch them out, which was, in her words, an absolute ball ache, and definitely it sounds like that. It's like breaking up with a boyfriend. And she wouldn't put things in her home that would make her home unsafe. And as a result of this, obviously she's partnered with a company to raise some money for charity. And she mentioned about how the bags were essentially a way of getting validation and admiration from others, that the handbags were a bit of an Achilles heel, which is interesting because obviously she was the one that bought the 75 handbags, no one had a gun to her head. She's then literally designing what I think is the most beautiful handbag with a brand that I love, and she talks about that a little bit. And then she ends the video, ironically, after all that spiel about luxury, to unbox a luxury handbag, which she classes the British Birkin, because she was chasing Birkins for quite a long time, and it's a Mulberry bag that she believes it comes full circle because she used to buy Mulberry bags until it was beneath her and she sold it as a side note, but now she's bought it again. And look, people can change their mind, so I'm just being flippant.
How long has she blogged in total for? You say she's 37 now.
Yeah, I think she must have started in her early to mid 20s.
Wow.
So she's grown up with the internet. So fair enough, like people can change.
It's kind of like Ray William Johnson, Kev Jumba era.
And a lot of her most viral, popular videos are of her unboxing and reviewing handbags. Certainly I myself, as a consumer, as well as soon to be creator, found her videos very informative. It is a shock, but it's also not a shock that she's pivoting, because we can always recreate our images, focusing away from materialism towards things that are meaningful in life, not what is expedient, is something generally that happens at this age. While I believe it's generally a positive message, it's good to encourage people to declutter, focus on buying things that you love and using things that you love. Given that she then does things like partner with a huge luxury consignment brand, Cellier, who then made a bunch of content afterwards, and I'm assuming it was an undisclosed ad because they made a lot of content, they made and raised a lot of money in her edit, that she only donated 20% of proceedings to charity. So if this was about charity, me personally, especially given the inflated price of Hermes, I think she could have donated more, if not the whole proportion, if she really wanted to tell us it's not about money, it's not about status. I also think when it comes to talking about not buying luxury, but then a very full circle end of an era ending of, I'm now unboxing another handbag, here it is, as well as I'm now also creating a handbag collection. To me, it doesn't strike as the most authentic. I could be wrong, it could just be timing and serendipitous timing. Suddenly has a collection coming out with handbags she's designing, but given her audience, I'm assuming is mid-20s, early 30s predominantly, to say don't buy into materialism, but buy into my materialism, I think is a little bit underhanded, as well as to say that you're not chasing the high of Hermes and whatnot, but you also use that as a big stepping stone for your brand, as well as continue to make ad revenue from those videos. That's, to me, that's like an OnlyFans creator saying, I've turned Christian, I'm not doing this anymore. To speak in a way that it's almost like, maybe I'm reading into it, maybe it's this air of superiority, yet still buying into luxury and still buying fancy cars. Like I think she did an Aston Martin video. It's a little bit pot calling kettle black, but again, I don't expect everybody to have thoughts already consistent and very deeply thought out. She was very much having a very free-flowing conversation.
Everyone in their early 20s or so, myself included, needed external validation, because when you're that age, you're still forming and you really care about other people's opinions. Her saying that actually she doesn't need that anymore, given that she's in her late 30s, makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of your audience can sort of relate, especially those within their 30s or 40s that actually, you know, if they reflect on their past, before they would have cared about other people's opinions because they sought validations, and then as they got older, it was a case of, you know what, I don't really care anymore. And I think this is essentially her way of expressing it. I think she must have looked at her handbags, 75 handbags, and sort of been like, geez, wow, right, I needed that much validation and all of this for what?
Yeah, and just on that point, because obviously I myself am very party to this sense of keeping up with the Joneses. As a luxury creator, I did buy a lot of luxury quite regularly in the past, and at the time it gave me great joy. Going forward in time to where I am now, you know, moving houses has probably been one of the most humbling experiences around this, because you really realize the sheer quantity of material objects that you've accumulated. And do you wear all of them? Absolutely not. I think there's a quote that says you wear 20% of your wardrobe 80% of the time, and I genuinely think that's the case. Obviously, I don't have a handbag addiction, shall we say, to that magnitude. I've always been very, very cognizant that handbags are very high ticket items. They are very serious purchases for me. I don't buy things on a whim. Lydia was very, very susceptible, as she openly admits, which I appreciate her candor around this, that she was very influenced. And I know it seems odd that influencers can be influenced, but you've got to understand, she's competing in a very saturated marketplace with people who are getting the next shiny object. Also, as a side news as well, she was hanging around at the time circles of individuals who were playing the Hermes game, and I think she had to get a lot of hers on resale because she couldn't. So that gives you a sense of like failure perhaps. And she's human, so she feels that she needs to keep up. But then there comes a point where you have to stop taking on other people's identities or wearing other people's skin to a degree. And in her influencer journey, I have noticed, because I have eyes, that she has taken on various forms like fitness influencer, then luxury creator, now this country one. Obviously, I hope that's her authentic self. She seems to be really enjoying it. But she always very much bought into things, not necessarily because she liked it, but because it was really in or trendy. And she does list actually in the video the Dior book tote as one of those items that she bought, and it was a pivotal moment for her because she was like, wait a minute, I don't actually like this. But she wanted to jump all the hoops and all that, and I'm saying with the Hermes game. And it also makes great content. People always bitch and moan about the content that I make around Chanel or whatever, but they watch it. The numbers don't lie, and I think a part of that was self-perpetuating, and that's probably where she got her 75 handbags from. That's where I kind of thought, actually, let's show other parts of my personality, because my identity is not my bags. And so that's where you see all this other, you know, myriad of content that's emerged, because I don't think buying stuff should be our identity. A lot of people, you'd be very surprised, have made their entire YouTube personality about their ability to buy things. That's not even a skill, it's just credit card, digits in, pay for something, you know? We're going to make this a microphone like this. So when you want to speak, I'll hand you the mic.
What you see that may be wealth on social media and YouTube, people are actually in a lot of debt.
On that point, and I think this is something which may explain why she's not donating all of the handbag drop to charity. I genuinely believe she paid well over market value for her Hermes bags in particular. Her spending 17 grand on an overinflated Hermes bag, which she wears like twice or for a styling video, probably delayed a lot of her other life plans. Obviously, fair enough, she doesn't have children, she has like animals, which are lower maintenance, I suppose, but that still is a significant amount of money, and she has, or had rather, to my knowledge, like 6 or 7 Hermes bags, so you do the maths. But I think, yeah, to your point, Mike Tyson, people like that, Nicolas Cage, they are living a fictitious lifestyle. And I feel like that's something that maybe she should have mentioned a little bit, the financial implications of luxury. I guess she's not going to mention that because she's still buying luxury, and obviously she's releasing a collection soon. And if she tells you not to buy luxury, but then can't shill her own luxury, I don't know, what's your perspective on that?
It's highly unrealistic for someone to go cold turkey from one niece to another, right? So perhaps this is probably a good way for her to transition slowly out of the materialistic stuff and pivot to maybe give a message of actually luxury isn't about things. In terms of releasing her own brand, it's probably a part of life where as we're younger we consume, but as we grow older we have more years under our belts and, inverted commas, veterans of life, and actually we use that expertise to produce and add value.
That's true, and that's a very valid point around giving back value as opposed to buying value. And I suppose when you're young, you have to go through this phase, so it's really not that black and white when it comes to luxury. Yeah, it does. Just like living in the city versus moving out to the countryside.
Yes.
You love the hustle and bustle until you're like me and you're like, no, I need the peace and quiet. When it comes to the messaging of the video, though, she was saying it was breaking up with a boyfriend. But you're not actually fully broken up. That's my issue. Just say that you don't want to buy Hermes, Chanel, or the high ticket brands because, frankly, the quality's not there. She didn't mention the quality point necessarily, okay? It was more about safety, and let's be honest, she doesn't live in London. So she goes to London for work, and she's wealthy enough, to our knowledge, right? She does very well. She can buy herself an Aston Martin or whatever, renovate her house, and have 2 dogs and chickens and bees, and all of which needs maintenance. Then she clearly isn't doing that bad for herself, right? And that's a good thing. If you are going to come from the perspective of, look, this was a phase in my life and I've moved on, I'm not saying go cold turkey, but then don't do the other things that are clearly very expensive and extravagant, and then also shill your own collection, which, you know, I think she's doing a collaboration with Holland Cooper. I've gotten from items from Holland Cooper before. They're a beautiful brand, don't get me wrong. They are exquisite quality. But their blazers start from, I think, around £500.
Oh, geez.
It's not Chanel or Hermes expensive, but it's still expensive. And I think, therefore, to have this messaging of, I'm not, you know, buying into luxury because this isn't my identity anymore. Okay, fine, declutter all of that. But you're still buying stuff every day. In fact, most of her vlogs have hauls in them. Clothing hauls, high street hauls. It's not that she's tapering on her consumerism all around. She's just buying different stuff. And that's where I find a little bit of an incongruency. She's still developing, and she does deserve the space to make mistakes and grow. But I think to, in one breath, basically like completely rain on everybody's parade in luxury and offend half of the community, I would say. My online friend Erica's Girly World made a spoof announcement on April Fool's saying, you know, I don't want to let materialism rule my life. I'll throw it up on screen. It was very funny. And there was a little bit of a trend actually on TikTok following that. I do think people have valid questions because the rest of her lifestyle doesn't necessarily add up. If you are going to be this like, I'm going to have an open, honest, transparent conversation, then be transparent. Be forthcoming in like, hey, I do have these nice things. I have a beautiful home that I renovate. I have all of these, you know, dogs and cats and animals, all of which, might I add, if you're going to go on about safety, getting safety for your chickens when there are foxes roaming around, that is expensive. So just say that you are pivoting those expenses. She should have been forthcoming in like, if she didn't enjoy Hermes's image, say the name. Why wouldn't she just say, I don't agree with Hermes's, you know, the game and whatnot, because at the time it served her. And that's why I wish she developed more on that thought. She just kind of brushed over that they're making content that she doesn't like. And I'm, again, assuming it's Hermes. Maybe it's Chanel, maybe it's another brand completely. But like you said, it paid the bills at the time. She's still going to style her outfits, with the bags that she's kept. So she's still showcasing that lifestyle. I wish she would just be forthcoming and saying, look, these are items I fell out of love with, or the quality's bad, or I just don't like the brand identity anymore. These are things that I will be buying instead. And I'll be honest that if I like something, I will buy it. It's also a point around, if it is really, truly about safety, valid questions need to be asked around. She mentioned, obviously, these behavioural changes she had to make and how she does love luxury and she loves the craftsmanship and she loves the style. So again, an incongruency there because she said it's about her identity changing, but actually she still loves luxury and she still buys it. But then it's about safety. Well, in that case, well, first of all, you don't live in London, so it's less affecting to you. Second of all, if it's that bad, at a certain point, you've got to understand or make the call of like, is the environment the problem? You see one of my recent update videos around just, you know, what's going on in our lives. We had a theft incident, right? So I'm very acutely aware. Why am I changing everything about my behavior and not just being like, actually, I should probably change where I live?
Yes, voice your concerns about safety and whatnot, but I think rather than sort of sitting in the problem and not doing anything about it, some actions need to be done. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you make a change? You have a big platform. If it's really about safety, lobby politicians, use your influence for good. Don't just make money off of it.
I have a question actually, and this is from someone who hasn't seen the video but has has listened to the overview of it. Do you think then that her messaging and the way she came across, one, did it have a tone or did it seem disingenuous? And number two, given she's saying she's pivoting away from handbags but she's moving to the countryside raising horses, do you feel like she's essentially replacing one inverted commas, vice with another.
I do think she believes and she delivered the messaging in a way that she was being honest and truthful in how she felt. The reason I choose that wording is because I know half of the luxury community has, it's in a way taken the piss out of what she's saying because they think it's quite uppity. And I think some people are taking it to be overly dramatic. She's not breaking up with a boyfriend. She's gone long distance with him. She's still buying other luxury items when she sees fit. There is nothing wrong with that, by the way. And I think being real with a lot of your younger viewers in saying that you still like nice stuff, but you're probably going to move to more niche brands. Like, for example, I have a Monar handbag, which I think is beautiful. I use it all the time, possibly more than some of my Chanels. That's more realistic. Bear in mind, okay, she has 75 handbags. I think she says she had around 15. She didn't sell the entirety of her wardrobe during that drop with Cellier. She sold, I think, around 6 handbags at the time. And I don't want people out there, young, impressionable people, to be like, do you know what? I'm going to do a Lydia Millen. And then meanwhile, she shills another bag or whatever. And she's like, oh, actually, that's because I'm still learning. That's because I love the quality. That's because it's a British Birkin. That's because this. There's always an excuse. That's why it rubbed some people the wrong way. And I'd rather you just say, I am human. I like nice, shiny objects. I've pivoted away from buying stuff for the validation of others, but because I like it. Don't make it sound like you were doing something revolutionary and different, because in reality, you're not. Look, I realize I'm slightly biased because I'm a luxury creator, but it's around a lifestyle, a rich lifestyle steeped in experiences and people that you care about and things that actually are of tangible value that when you're on your deathbed, you're like, wow, it's not the stuff that I had, it's the memories and the people that I cherish. Whereas with her, I feel like sometimes she, and this is what critics say, she sometimes puts on a fake persona of different identities. And again, we've all done that, it's a rite of passage, but be consistent. Don't then start going on about all of your other extravagant purchases. They might not be Hermes, but they're still very extravagant. Not everybody can afford to get a chicken coop, you know? And bake sourdough bread. You are very privileged. And if people like luxury, I know she's not extrapolating that people are materialistic and dense and whatnot. I think, or one could construe it that way. But anyway, shall we end on our final thoughts? Because this has been a very lengthy video. In summary, I think the general messaging is positive. We should be decluttering. We should only buy things that we love and only we authentically love, not for others. And I definitely think safety in London or in the UK is a topic that I'm very passionate about, that I believe needs to come with deep policy change at the root. I mean, this is another topic for another time. Everybody has their own interests, and I believe she still has those interests. She's not necessarily, in my opinion, being the most forthcoming. But then again, we're all human. But anyway, what's your final thought on this topic?
I think my final thought is, what is the definition of luxury to you? I think for her, it's very clear that her definition of luxury has always been about the price tag of things.
Yeah.
It's been it's handbags one day, but she's pivoted and saying it doesn't appeal to her, but now it's Aston Martins and large houses. The overall sense that I'm getting is that her definition of luxury is more extrinsic. It's the price tag. It's the value, how many zeros or how many commas are attached to the thing that she may be pursuing. Whereas I think for you, it may have started out like that, but actually with your content, newer content, I think what you're realizing is actually luxury is more intrinsic and about experiences.
And I think on that, she just needs to say, I'm doing luxury, but differently. Maybe she has in other videos, right? I'm just not going to watch hours of vlogs. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I've got other things to do. But I think to say something like, I'm breaking up with luxury or whatever verbiage she used.
Clickbaity. It's
clickbaity. Obviously, it worked because it went viral and she got lots of attention for it. And she sold all of her handbags, I think, within like 10 minutes or something. So good for her. But to make people aware of the gain that you are getting is important. And I think as a discerning viewer, you should always have that at the forefront. What is she getting in return? PR is still something, right? All publicity is good publicity. And at the end of the day, she's an influencer. She's self-employed and she needs to keep producing. And even if producing is her selling off her things, but she's still making money back, it was a win-win. She basically got paid with the actual parity, I'm assuming, of those items. And she made ad revenue on top of that with the videos. And she got more press from all the reposts and whatnot that she got. And now she can use those funds to buy more things and to then sell you guys a new collection. We've covered a lot of ground. I do hope you enjoyed this conversation. I certainly did. And it's also very interesting to hear from the perspective of somebody that is completely external to luxury. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If this is something you do enjoy, we will definitely make more. So with that being said, thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one.